When we think about the long history of Christianity, not many of us connect Bible passages with astral influences. However, some bolder interpretations, sometimes referred to as Gnostic, claim that certain biblical narratives may hold profound codes about the relationship between heaven and earth. Could it be, for instance, that Judas was an enlightened disciple whose role has been misunderstood? And beyond that, is it possible that Jesus' crucifixion represented a sort of cosmic performance intended to awaken our consciousness? As provocative as these questions sound, they encourage us to analyze the scriptures from an investigative perspective. We are not suggesting that the traditional Christian perspective is mistaken, but we do propose that many biblical symbols might go beyond what is usually taught in an ordinary catechism. It is precisely in this beyond that we find room to discuss the Age of Aquarius, whose mystical projections indicate that 2025 could mark a transition to a new phase of humanity. Why link this to a new year rebirth? The answer is simple. This time of year carries the symbolism of starting over. At the beginning of each cycle, we can look to the sky for inspiration, creating a sacred bridge between the heart of the universe and our inner life. After all, if God is the supreme architect, does it not make sense that divine laws would be reflected in cosmic movements? In the book of Job, chapter 38, versions 31 to 32, for example, mentions constellations such as Orion and the Pleiades, opening the door to the idea that the stars influence human history in mysterious yet real ways. Within this context, there is speculation about Judas and the crucifixion as events full of symbolism, intended to reveal spiritual dimensions. Gnostic traditions even assert that the true resurrection happens during one's lifetime through a process of awakening in sync with the cosmic orchestra. This is not about dismissing the prevailing Christian view, but about expanding our horizons. Every interpretation, whether it sees Judas as an enlightened agent or the crucifixion as a staged event meant to expose the illusion of death, reveals how the biblical text may contain layers beyond the literal. Therefore, as we begin this journey to understand the connection between heaven and earth, let us keep in mind that we are in yet another new year, a time that represents rebirth. If Christianity is a quest for truth, why not explore unusual approaches? Why not suppose that, as 2025 draws near, the so-called signs in the heavens might also shed light on our inward journey? Keeping an open mind does not weaken faith. In fact, it can make faith more profound, since every life cycle invites us to be reborn alongside the universe and, who knows, to recognize in ourselves the divine breath that sustains all creation. In our attempt to track astrological symbols in ancient scriptures, we discover that not only the Judeo-Christian people, but also countless other cultures viewed the stars as a gateway to the sacred. From Egyptian papyri to Greek manuscripts, the alphabet of the heavens was often considered a legitimate source of understanding regarding the relationship between humanity and divinity. This widespread trait prompts us to ask, how could such diverse civilizations attribute such a vital role to constellations? Many people first encountered these ideas when reading Gnostic texts, which frequently depict Jesus as a redeemer with a cosmic role rather than a purely earthly one. Some apocryphal works even describe the crucifixion as a sacred theater intended to demonstrate the illusory nature of death. Understandably, these perspectives may shock those who follow canonical Christian interpretations, but they raise the possibility that the Bible might be in part a symbolic map for an inner awakening. In this narrative, would Judas hold an essential, almost predestined function so that a higher purpose could be fulfilled? Although such ideas seem far removed from what we learn in more conservative settings, they do echo in lesser-known biblical passages. The Book of Job, chapter 38, verses 31 to 32, refers to constellations like the Pleiades and Orion, suggesting a celestial influence on Earth. If we accept that viewpoint, we can revisit concepts such as nothing in the sky is there by chance. In ancient times, renowned Christian thinkers did not consider this belief to be paganism, but rather recognition of a divine work on a cosmic scale, a sacred bridge between the Creator and creation. One particularly fascinating point is the correlation found in historical Bibles, in which the four Gospels are represented by zodiac-related symbols: man or Aquarius, lion, bull, and eagle or Scorpio. In some medieval illustrations, Matthew appears as Aquarius, conveying a message connected to the progression of human consciousness. Meanwhile, Luke is linked to the bull, a symbol of strength and sacrifice. These ideas did not emerge from contemporary imagination. They have been studied and debated for centuries, directly inserting the cosmos into reflections on faith. Even so, more traditional views approach any dialogue between astrology and the Bible with great caution, fearing that the focus on salvation through faith in Christ could be overshadowed by practices reminiscent of ancient religions. Yet influential figures like Clement of Alexandria made it clear that the wisdom of God can be engraved both in the scriptures and in the orbits of the planets. In the 21st century, and especially as 2025 approaches, which mystics regard as a pivotal marker for the Age of Aquarius, perhaps it is time to reassess our unease about astrology. After all, could it actually enrich our grasp of the sacred? Every turn of the year strengthens our drive for renewal. But if we accept the premise that the entire universe celebrates cycles, we are likewise invited to view the stars as part of a divine plan. In that sense, Gnostic concepts that interpret the crucifixion as a metaphor for dying to a limited consciousness become more plausible. The same applies to the idea of Judas as a channel fulfilling a broader plan. After all, if the stars proclaim the glory of God, as Psalm chapter 19 verse 1 states, perhaps we are only beginning to decipher that great code linking the scriptures to the totality of the cosmos. As we continue our quest for links between the Bible and the universe, we encounter references to specific heavenly bodies, such as Saturn and Uranus, which suggest a higher order involving spiritual entities. More mystical interpreters claim that angels or demons might have cosmic counterparts connected to planets or constellations. Of course, this line of thought sparks heated debates. Are we not stretching the scriptures too far? For some researchers, Revelation chapter 20, which speaks of Satan being bound for 1,000 years and then released, might be related to Saturn's cycles, which Uranus keeps in check until a certain point. Although this connection sounds esoteric, we cannot deny that biblical texts often address celestial bodies either with reverence or as warnings. Ezekiel chapter 28 verse 14 depicts Lucifer as an anointed cherub who falls, a story that, to some, symbolizes the fall of a star that once gleamed with divine intensity. These ideas become even more intriguing when we consider seemingly ordinary passages like Luke chapter 22 verse 10, where Jesus instructs the disciples to follow the man carrying the pitcher of water. Some interpret this as pointing to the transition into the Age of Aquarius, which many believe will solidify notably in 2025. Seen from that angle, the biblical narrative is not limited to the first century context, but instead alludes to cyclical changes in consciousness, inviting us to look to the sky at each New Year's turning and find signs of inner renewal. Likewise, Saturn, or Kronos, appears in ancient mythologies as the god of time who devours everything. In modern readings, Saturn may be linked to forces of limitation and oppression, whereas Uranus symbolizes the drive for freedom. This struggle reflects the war between flesh and spirit, as Paul discusses in his letters. If we extend this parallel, the fall of Satan could reflect, within each person, the overcoming of a restrictive mindset. In that sense, the triumph of Uranus would represent the elevation of thought to a more celestial level. This viewpoint offers fresh interpretations of Christ's crucifixion. Perhaps it is not merely an atoning sacrifice, but also a display of victory over the chronological forces that imprison us in materiality. Some more daring circles suggest it was actually a divine trick meant to reveal the illusion of suffering and exalt the divine birth that happens whenever humans awaken to their true nature. Under this framework, 2025 and its Aquarian transition would strengthen the possibility of being reborn together with the cosmos. We do not intend to conclude the debate, but to arouse curiosity. If the biblical authors reference stars and cycles, maybe they want to tell us something about how heaven and earth are interconnected. Each year, the new year waves its promise of a fresh start. What if we use these celestial signs to support real transformation, coming closer to our essence and, at the same time, recognizing the divine breath that energizes the constellations? We have now reached a crucial point in our journey, exploring 4 major themes that can shake our usual reading of the scriptures. Aligned with the symbolic New Year rebirth and the possibility of entering the Age of Aquarius in 2025, revisiting these topics helps us perceive how the biblical text and the cosmos connect in a sort of sacred bridge between the heart of the universe and our inner life. In Genesis, there are passages mentioning celestial lights as signs. In Revelation, we see references to stars as omens. In the Gospels, symbolic images hint at something beyond a mere historical record. At first glance, it may all appear unrelated, but when we look closely, we find countless clues suggesting a potential dialogue between biblical texts and the astronomical or astrological knowledge of their time. When we come across phrases like "nothing in the sky is there by chance," or "the entire universe vibrates in harmony with the Creator," it becomes clear that the common thread can be found in multiple directions. Some scholars argue that Genesis, by mentioning the creation of the stars for signs and seasons, validates the idea that God inscribed a kind of cosmic calendar in the heavens. For those who believe that the Age of Aquarius will take shape around 2025, this theory is no mere coincidence. After all, passages such as Luke chapter 22 verse 10, about the man carrying a pitcher of water, appear to hint at something grand on the horizon, a new stage of consciousness where humanity would be invited to reach a higher level of perception. These suggestions become even more striking when we link Saturn, described in ancient texts as Kronos, to the figure of Satan. Many see signs in Ezekiel chapter 28 verse 14 and Revelation chapter 20 of a power that was once radiant but became corrupt, was restrained for a time, and in the end is released again to test the world. Some people associate this dynamic with cyclical movements, in which Saturn symbolizes the tyranny of time and the challenge each being faces when dealing with mortality and material limitations. In this scheme, Christ is the one who shatters those chains, granting believers the chance to be born into a reality that transcends the boundaries of Kronos. Meanwhile, researchers point out that, throughout history, certain Christian manuscripts and illustrations have portrayed the 4 Gospels through figures tied to constellations. Matthew as the man, Aquarius, Mark as the lion, Luke as the bull, and John as the eagle, the higher form of Scorpio. According to this viewpoint, each Gospel depicts a different aspect of the divine-human relationship, echoing cosmic energies that unfold in a person's spiritual journey. The idea that the Gospels align with the zodiac scandalizes more conservative readers. Still, To mystics and some scholars, it reinforces the notion that the Christian faith is not disconnected from the vibrations of the universe. The outcome of merging all these concepts is fascinating, a Christianity that engages with the stars without necessarily abandoning its historical roots. Some see this perspective as a risk of paganizing the faith, worrying that Christ's central role might be lost amid speculation about astrology. Yet others believe that this combination, rather than diluting the power of the gospel, actually deepens our understanding of its mysteries. If God created all things, including the stars, why not accept that this same God might orchestrate events on earth in harmony with the heavens? And why not imagine that with every new year, when our human calendar marks a fresh start, the firmament is also there, signaling subtle transitions that prompt us to reflect? As 2025 looms on the horizon as a possible reference point for the dawn or solidification of the Age of Aquarius, the Christian message takes on renewed dimensions. Celebrating Christmas or ringing in the new year becomes not only a repeated ritual, but a gateway where each person evaluates their own life under the glow of a possible shift in era. And suppose Christ's crucifixion is not just about the shedding of blood, but also about breaking free from the chains of Kronos, Saturn. Why not consider that Judas, instead of being a traitor, played the inevitable role of paving the way for the performance that reveals the secret of resurrection? In this scenario, year after year, the same invitation echoes, urging us to see in the heavens a reflection of the story we live on earth and in our souls. The biblical text, as far as we can tell, does not avoid this cosmic dialogue. It is as though each constellation, each planetary cycle, reminds us that there is a greater plan guided by a divine intelligence. Diving into these theories does not need to push us away from everyday Christian practice. On the contrary, it can lead us to an even deeper reverence. After all, how else could we respond but with awe when we glimpse the vastness of the sky and suspect that its silent dance somehow speaks to our story of faith and salvation? One of the most immediate effects of this astrological reading of Scripture is its impact on daily religious practice. How might linking Judas to an enlightened destiny or viewing the crucifixion as a cosmic message change the way we live out our faith? In the eyes of more traditional believers, this approach might undermine the reality of Jesus' true sacrifice. Yet for those drawn to Christian mysticism or esotericism, there is an opportunity here to move beyond literalist interpretations and seek a more profound personal relationship with the sacred. It is important to note that none of these ideas appeared out of thin air. Centuries ago, theologians such as Clement of Alexandria pondered the divine wisdom, evident both in the Bible and in the design of the cosmos. So why not pick up that conversation again in the 21st century? With ever more powerful telescopes and growing awareness of our universe's immense size, it seems reasonable to view the sky as an additional book, where God may also have written laws and cycles that teach us about birth, death, and renewal. Each new year reminds us there is a rhythm of endings and beginnings. If 2025 stands out as a potential turning point into a new era, let us take this chance to ask what spiritual rebirth might mean in this context. Maybe it involves setting aside narrow beliefs and welcoming a theology that integrates modern science, ancient wisdom, and personal intuition. From this perspective, the crucifixion would be seen not only as a historical event, but also as a living symbol of dying to the ego and rising into a more expansive self. As for Judas, rather than being just the betrayer, he could be the catalyst for a necessary transition, according to certain Gnostic views. These ideas do not cancel out the importance of brotherly love, charity, and fellowship, which are central to Christian tradition. If anything, they can inspire even greater appreciation for what unites people, because if the magnificent cosmic orchestra teaches us anything, it is that every part has a unique role but converges toward greater harmony. Reflecting on this celestial harmony, each new year can breathe new life into the principles of respect and compassion. In this light, being born again is not just a religious phrase, but an inner path of continual growth. In short, by embracing these interpretations, we welcome a broader spirituality that goes beyond walls and doctrines and reaches toward the sky. We realize then that the New Year countdown is not merely a clock ticking down, but a reminder that everything changes. If the call of the Age of Aquarius is real, it resonates with the following idea. Wake up, open your eyes to the infinite, acknowledge the divine birth within you, and above all, use that rebirth to make the world a more compassionate place in line with a higher will. When we observe this possible convergence between the cosmos and the scriptures, it is natural that 2025, as a potential milestone for the Age of Aquarius, stirs up curiosity and questions. The new year, so often seen solely as a festive occasion, becomes a symbol of personal and perhaps collective rebirth. Maybe the theories about Judas being an enlightened disciple, or the crucifixion as a kind of illusion of death, are merely reflections of a deeper yearning. The desire to find, in each cycle, an invitation to look upon the universe and ourselves with fresh eyes. Christians of the past, such as Clement of Alexandria, believed that the Creator reveals himself both through the lines of the Bible and in the galaxy's symphony. In that sense, gazing at the stars could act as a sacred bridge between the heart of the universe and our inner life. While some perceive a danger of losing focus on traditional faith, others see it as a return to an essential mysticism, where divine birth can be experienced again and again in anyone who is open to this broader dimension. Perhaps there is a spark of truth in every viewpoint. Some will feel more comfortable in a literal interpretation of the gospel, while others will find greater meaning by adding astrological symbolism into their Christian practice. Whatever path one chooses, every new year opens a space to rethink everything we thought was firmly established. And in that moment, we might ask ourselves if what really matters is this desire to grow and to deepen our sense of wonder before the Creator. The rest remains unresolved because each person finds the sacred in their own way. There are no ultimate answers that extinguish the mystery. There may simply be signs intertwining, like constellations that, when viewed together, tell a story greater than we have imagined. And as the cycle restarts, we can only reflect on what we will do with this renewed time, this chance to align ourselves with something beyond ourselves. All change begins when we recognize our role as co-creators. One way to tune into this divine intelligence is through meditation. We have developed a set of audio tools to help you reach this higher state of awareness. To learn more and gain immediate access, click on the link on the screen or in the comments. If this video resonated with you, write in the comments, "It made sense to me."